Good afternoon, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones, and boy, do I have another incredible show for us today. I have my friend Daryl James in the studio today. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, reptilians. And let me guarantee you guys, there will be a Wikipedia warning underneath this video as soon as we finish out the show today. I guarantee it. It always happens. That just means that this show is a little more interesting than most, okay? So if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and keep up with what I'm doing with my crazy butt, just go over to the cryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows there. And my schedule of events, I will be at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference this weekend. That's going to be in Dillard, Georgia. Let's see, I may have a flyer for that, or I may not. Nope, I don't. Okay, you guys come see me at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. And yeah, I'll be there along with Ron Moorhead, Brooks Agnew, Matthew Delph, myself, and a bunch of other people. Okay, so that's Friday and Saturday. Saturday's the big event, so y'all be sure to be there on Saturday, for sure. Okay, also, if you would like to become a member of my Patreon, I would love that. That is actually, I put all of my remote viewing data on that for my Thursday night show. So yeah, you guys, thank you to all of my Patreon members. You guys are the best. So that's a great way to support the channel. Also, I have a shop. I thought I had a banner for that. Well, I have a shop. It's called War Woman Goods, and that's on Etsy. And today, just like last Wednesday, I did it again. I put my shop on sale. And every item that you buy today, every package that goes out, I am including free Cryptid Huntress merchandise. So you guys go to War Woman Goods on Etsy. It's down here on the ticker. And any purchase you make, big or small, you will get some merch from the Cryptid Huntress. And Daryl and I today are doing a giveaway. I know this is fancy, but hey, I bought some extra ones. So I've got a mossy oak beanie. Okay, that I'm going to give to one of my viewers today on the show. I want you guys, at the end of the show today, we're going to have you guys pick a number. And Daryl already told me the number before the show. And so we're going to do that at the end of the show today, right before we quit and say goodbye. We're going to do that drawing today. You guys are going to have to pick a number and put it in the chat. Okay, so we'll do that at the end. All right. Well, I don't want to waste any time today because I have my good friend Daryl James here today. All right. So let me give you a little overview of what we're talking about, and then I'm going to bring up Daryl. Okay. Eyewitness accounts of 7-foot-tall reptilians have been reported across the world, and they include encounters with U.S. soldiers. Well, definitely the secret space program guys, and people all over the United States. Okay. And y'all know, you see all those videos with people's eyes changing to slits. And there are rumors that some of our elite and the people who run our countries might be reptilian. I don't know. Well, we're going to talk about that today. And also, you know, they had snake-like deities that were worshipped around many different cultures all over the world since the beginning of history. Now, did these reptilians pose a major threat to the everyday person, you know, especially to us cryptid field researchers out there? Well, my friend Daryl has had his own personal experience with an actual reptilian. Daryl James enlisted in the U.S. Navy on January 24th of 1999. He served 7 years, including 1 year in Iraq with the Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 7. In 2003, while stationed at the Royal Air Force Base in St. Maugen in Cornwall, UK, He passed through what he thought was a metal detector. It was a piece of technology that measured every biometric signature he had, including his IQ, which was measured at 195. He was soon recruited to join the secret space program and guaranteed a position as a pilot in Solar Warden, the starfleet that monitors our solar system. After a miscommunication with a 9.5-foot tall reptilian, he was sent to the mine on the moons, which was very traumatic, as I can imagine. So you guys, please help me welcome to the show my friend, Daryl James. Hey, Daryl.
Hello, Jessica. Good to be here.
It's so good to see you. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you now. We're talking about something that is, like I told the audience, it's one of my favorite topics to talk about because there seem to be lots of sightings of what people consider to be reptilians all over the world. And you have had your own experience, and it seems as though I can imagine it was pretty traumatic. And if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about what happened to you and the history kind of behind that today.
Yes, well, this was in St. Maugen, and I remember, well, at first, my first experience with it was people in the barracks talked about it because I didn't actually work in the underground base. I worked in a garage on the other side of the base. And they said something to the effect of, like, we were playing that video game Halo in the barracks, and one of the guys said, "Hey, did you see that reptile today?" And another guy said, "Yeah, he was big." And then another one said, "Yeah, and he talked funny too." And I kind of said, "What? Like, there's reptiles that talk to you underground." And I thought they were talking about like a four-legged, like, large reptile or something. And they said, "No, no, they walk upright like us, and they're humanoid like us. And yeah, they live in the underground bases. They live in caverns in the earth." And the people who worked in this underground base, this was like, pretty much a weekly occurrence, I guess, for them to work around these reptiles and see them.
Oh, so this was not, so this was something that everybody kind of knew about, that was in the program, that was working there. Upright, like lizard men, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Did they speak English? I mean, I have so many questions when it comes to this. Were these beings considered to be? I mean, they were working amongst everybody. Because you hear about reptilians being violent, and I want to say cannibalistic, but I guess it's like they would eat humans and stuff. Is it the stuff that I hear about? What was the relationship with the humans and the reptilians?
As far as the way they talk, I remember when I did hear him talk, I heard the one large one. They have like a different caste system. There's like a working caste, a warrior caste, a royal caste. And when it talked, it kind of seemed to be very deep, deeper than any man's voice could be. Like when it first spoke, but then the last syllable, it kind of had to push out, and it went a little bit higher pitched. So he said, "Follow me," but he kind of said it like, "Follow me," like it kind of like, "Gee." And then I remember like the royal ones that I met, they were more like, they almost kind of quacked or barked. Their talking was very abrupt. I put it like the way the old 1960s Batman, like the way the Penguin laughed, is kind of like how they talk. Like it was very like abrupt and barky and quacky. And yeah, I mean, it's. I'm sorry. What were your other questions? I went to
Yeah.
that.
Well, it was kind of like, well, how did they interact with humans? Because I would think that from what I've been told, it seems as though they're kind of scary and are not, they're kind of violent towards humans.
Well, yeah, I mean, they use us as a food source. They see us as cattle. I was told that by the executive officer of the base. They have. I don't know. Are we being edited? Can I say?
You can say whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I saw like like adrenochrome harvesting cages that
Mhm.
children were in and things like that. And the reptiles partook in that. They partook in the adrenochrome. Um, they Yeah, they basically saw us as food, and they pretty much see Earth as like their own like slave planet. But I believe that these things are beginning to change. I was told by the XO that you know our solar system is becoming free. You're going to start seeing things like they're going to say it's space debris from space stations and things like that, where there's going to be meteorites with like silver or gold sparks behind it. And he told me that these are actually their ships being shot down because Earth is on lockdown pretty much, where nobody's allowed to go in or out without, and it's eventually going to get to a point where nobody's going to be allowed in or out. And I think that's probably where we're at right now. And that's part of Solar Warden. It's like a conglomeration of other ETs and things like that that are helping us. But it's mostly the U.S. military. But yeah, I would say they see us pretty much as cattle, is how they see us. It's just a commodity to be, butchered.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing that things, and I say things like any kind of extraterrestrial beings, and so hold on, I've got like 2 or 3 questions in one here. Okay, so is that a good thing that other creatures, other beings are being kind of kept out of our atmosphere and off our planet right now? Because it seems as though some of these reptilians are living on our planet underground in caves and caverns right now.
Well, I mean, I would say it's a good thing just because of the operation that's happening right now, because we are cleaning out the underground bases, the underground caverns. Because yes, there's many reptiles, different species, elongated skulls, the grays, things like that. These are all beings that I would consider negative in the sense that they don't see us as I don't know, coherent. They don't see us as just even like a thinking species. And they've just been using us for a long time. I was told by a first class petty officer, I said, what are they? And he said, well, he said we really don't know. He said all we know is they've been here as long as we have, and we used to worship them like gods. They used to walk amongst us on the earth. They lost some sort of battle that we were involved in this battle, but we got outside help. And one of the agreements for the treaty that was signed after they lost the war was they had to live underground. So they've been infiltrating like our religion, our schools, our propaganda ever since then.
Wow. Okay, well, that's stuff that we hear about pretty often. And when you go and do research on the reptilian humanoids, there are a lot of statues and statuary and things that pop up, such as some of these that I was just showing. This is actually a statue that came out of a temple in Japan, which, from what I could understand, is missing today. It was taken out of this temple, depicting what looks to be a reptilian type of a being, and you can find several of these, and also with the Nagas, a lot of reptilian symbology throughout history that seems to be kind of wiped out a little bit today. We don't hear about it very much. It's definitely not in our history books, Daryl. I couldn't find a whole lot of that. So it seems as though there's some sort of a cover up to a lot of this. Right.
I mean, definitely. I mean, I've seen the Mayan pyramids and things like that in Honduras, and they always had reptilian heads on the pyramids and everything like that. And, the tour guide said that it was because that, I don't know, they saw the iguana or something like that as a big part of their mythology. But I don't believe that. I think it had a lot to do with, when the reptiles did walk the earth and, they were part of our society, and we treated them like gods. We worshiped them like gods, as far as what I was told. But yeah, I would say most definitely. And history, I was also told, is a complete lie. And I was told that all of our, original archives and everything like that, like the Library of Alexandria, before Caesar burned it down, he actually took all the scrolls and tablets and everything like that out, and they're all in the catacombs of the Vatican. And we're going to eventually, hopefully within our lifetime, we'll know our true history. And I was told the catacombs of the Vatican are probably one of the worst places for reptiles and grays, elongated skulls.
Whoa. Okay. I love that you said that, because part of why I do my remote viewing shows on Thursday nights is to get to the bottom of a lot of these mysteries that have been hidden from us for so long, and they've been lied about. And so I inadvertently stumble over information sometimes. I don't mean to. Okay. But whatever I get in my data from some of these blind targets that I get, including tomorrow night, I actually was given a blind remote viewing target from Barry Littleton, and it's the Roswell alien autopsies. Okay, I know it sounds gross, but it's actually really interesting because stuff like that, even with the grays and UFO crashes and things, it's all so covered up. I think it's cool to look into stuff like that because I feel like we are the disclosure. People like yourself um, telling your story. I mean, it's firsthand experience, and you having the bravery, okay, to come forward and tell your story makes all the difference, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. Okay, well, so you had mentioned that the reptilians, I mean, some people think that like the reptilians are the ones ruling our countries, like the Queen of England, was like a reptilian. I mean, some say that they do have reptilian bloodlines, and those are the ones that rule our world. And it's not just a rumor. What do you think? Do you think that's the truth? And you've had experience with that, or what do you think?
I would say maybe not so much now. I think they're kind of on the run right now, and I was told that they're
Okay.
scared, they're on the run, they're desperate, they're trying to get away. But I remember one time I was in the barracks, and there was a guy named Orlando, and he, they were. It was after I came back from the program, and I think the command, I know the command was basically had people spying on me and kind of asking me questions to see if I had any memory of the 20-year and back. And he said, this guy named Johnson, we'll just say, he said this other guy told me there's a machine that can extract the consciousness from a human body, but it has to be done before puberty, and it can't be done when they're too young, like 3 or 4, because the body is mostly sedentary. It's pretty much just standing still. But so they do it when they're around 9 or 10. They extract their consciousness with this machine, and another consciousness can inhabit the body, like almost astral project into this body and kind of use it like a puppet, I guess you would say. And he said that's what happened to Aquino. And Michael Aquino was this Satanist. He started the Temple of Set, and he was part of the whole Presidio case back in the 80s. He was on Oprah. I saw him on Oprah when I was a kid. I saw him in person, and I also saw the reptilian that inhabited his body as well. He was a colonel in the army, but yes, he when I did see him, I saw him in the underground caverns. He was just like a black reptile. He had kind of a long snout, fangs. Eyes were kind of on the sides of his head. He had gold eyes. He wore a red hood, a red cloak. He had like Satanists with him, human Satanists that wore black cloaks. He said that he was once worshipped in ancient Egypt. He was a god of some sort, thousands of years old. He was telling me these things about himself. But I remember, like, when I was being tortured, first I saw the reptile in my face, whatever this reptile was. And he said, "Don't you remember me, Daryl?" And I was very confused. I didn't know what was going on. And it was almost like he could take two images and kind of put them together. And all of a sudden I saw like Aquino in my field of vision. And he said, "Now do you remember me?" But then I saw the reptile, whatever, the true being that possessed Michael Aquino's body, kind of walk back into the shadows near the back of the room. And I looked over Aquino's shoulder and I said, "Nice trick." Like I was able to see it, like what was happening. It was almost like an illusion where he could kind of blend two images together and, kind of creep back in the shadows and assume that you wouldn't see him. But I guess some people can see it. And Robert told me, this was the XO, he told me that the reptiles, they live in the fourth density. Like we're third density, and fourth density is like astral, the spirit world, the astral plane. And we were talking about him in the office before I left the Navy. And I remember he got kind of spooked. And he said, "We should stop talking about Aquino now." And I said, "Why?" And he told me, he said, Aquino is fourth density, which is astral plane, spirit world. I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He said, "We could conjure him if we talk about him too much, if we think about him too much." He said, he could be in this room and we wouldn't even know it because he's fourth density. He said the only reason you saw him is because he showed himself to you. But I think there was like a way that I could see it somehow. But yeah, it's like, it's a lot more like mystical and a lot more spiritual than you'd actually think, the entire ET UFO world in general.
Oh yeah. Well, coming from a cryptid field researcher, I can agree with that 100%. And there's certain cryptids, I guess you could say, even though I don't think a skinwalker is a cryptid, according to D.A. Roberts, who was on the show the other day, we talked about that. There's some things like that we're told not to say that name out loud, or don't say it too much. Don't say it 3 times. It will conjure that being. And I believe that that could be true in a lot of these cases, because some of our experience with my team, who was all very psychically switched on, we think that we have had interactions with some of these fourth density beings and things that are not just in the 3-dimensional reality, but they're out there. They're out there too, and they can be conjured. I think that we talk about that a lot on our show, about how cryptids can be conjured, and that does happen with black magic. And for people who watch my show, you guys will know I talk about Corpsewood Manor here in Georgia, and how the 2 gentlemen there were Satanists, and they were friends with Anton LaVey with the Church of Satan, who came and showed them exactly where to put their house. And they did do rituals and things there, and there was a lot of cryptid activity there, which is not pretty. Okay, it's not the good cryptids. It's some that could potentially hurt you. They could probably all hurt you. Okay, but these are the grimy ones, like old Green Eyes. Okay, Boo the Beagle, thank you for that. I do need gas money for Bigfooting. I appreciate you. That's so sweet. Okay, but yes. So conjuring and black magic, and you mentioned Satanist as well. So that is a part of this with some of these reptilian beings, apparently. So that adds another element to this, Daryl, when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these Satanists who wound up participating directly in this, adrenochrome harvesting and working directly with the reptiles, they probably started out as like a low-level kind of just experimenting with things and things like that of that nature. And probably, one of these beings showed up. And I mean, if you call upon them, they will show up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they got stuck in this program.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Well, I have so many different avenues that we could go down right now. Okay. Because the reason that I actually got interested to do the show today was because a friend of mine sent me a video, and it was on Instagram, and I did post it in my stories on Instagram. If you guys want to see it, it's in my Instagram stories. But it was supposed to be what he called a reptilian on the hunt. And this is something, it's in the United States of America. I'm not exactly sure where, but it sounds like something that it sounds familiar to me, like something I've heard in the woods before, Daryl. And if you guys want to go see it, go to my Instagram, the Cryptid Huntress, and go look at my stories. But he said that, so the story behind this video, excuse me, it's supposed to be a reptilian. They don't say that in the video, but it's supposed to be stalking a family in their home. And you can hear it making this noise, which sounds like something I've heard in the woods before. But he said, if you hear this noise, you need to just go, I hate to say it, but like take it out if you can, because they're very violent. And he's talking about how they'll grab victims and take them into the underground caves, and you'll never see them again. Okay, so Daryl, here in the United States, of course, we have an epidemic, in my opinion, of missing people. And I know with your experiences and you being in some of these underground facilities, because I know the first time that we met, you told me you had a story about a chimera that was at one of those underground facilities. And we talked about that the last time you were here. But we also mentioned all the missing people potentially being taken down to these facilities. Do you think that and I think you answered it earlier, because you said that they actually do feed on humans, correct?
Yes, and they use us for genetic manipulation. We have one of the most malleable DNAs in the universe, so that's how they make those chimeras. And I mean, it could be for food, it could be to use our DNA manipulation, it could be slavery, to be put in these programs, it could be a lot of stuff. I mean, they're not like, in the sense of, I'm sure they're trying to be intimidating, but they're not in the sense of, they're kind of like a wild beast. They're not like that. They're very intelligent, they're telepathic, and they have people above them. They have other reptiles above them. Usually, the bigger ones you see are actually the underlings. They're like a warrior caste or a working caste. It's the ones that are more like our height that I remember seeing. They're around 6 foot. Those are the ones I remember that were probably more of the ones that were in like a leadership position. But yeah, I mean, they're not just. I wouldn't really consider them, a wild beast. They're very intelligent, and they're very telepathic. And yeah, they're on this different plane, so they have this kind of ability to just be able to kind of disappear and then reappear somewhere else. They're on a different plane of existence, like the astral. They're more on like the spirit plane. So yeah, I mean, these people going missing and everything like that, 100%. We do have like an epidemic of people going missing in the United States, especially if they're hiking in national parks and things like that. From what I learned, I would not go spelunking. I don't think that's a good idea, like to go into caves and everything like that. I wouldn't go too deep because these things, they do live in these caverns underground. And yeah, I was well. I mean, one of the other stories I was told was when they were going after Tom Hanks in Australia. He was so desperate that he ran for the caves. It just is like a blind attempt because he worked directly with these reptiles and things like that for adrenochrome. And yeah, I was told about that, so I would stay away from caves.
Okay. Well, that's why I get such a bad vibe when I get around a cave. I've actually done some cryptid investigating in a cave up in Tennessee, and I did not like it at all. I did not like it one bit. And we were investigating because there was supposed to be a alleged Bigfoot that was taking this couple's chickens out of their yard, and you could see the trail of feathers going into the cave, but there were no footprints there at all. So whatever, there was some outside by the chicken coop, but only feather. So whatever was taking them was climbing up the walls of the cave, apparently, and going into those holes. Now I have to wonder, could that have been a reptilian taking those chickens? Ew.
Could have been.
I never even thought of that because we're looking for Bigfoot, but I don't know. Does Bigfoot crawl on walls? I don't know. Probably not like a reptilian would. So that adds another element. Good thing my friends moved. They don't live there anymore. Okay, but Girl and Her Gong, thank you, Maureen, for that super chat. I appreciate that from you and Gus. Thank you. Okay, so there is also that holographic element to it as well, and they are able to. I want to say holographic, but if they're living in the fourth dimension, the fourth density, I wonder like how that works. You know what I mean? Because people sometimes claim that they're seeing people like normal humans who look like humans, their faces distorting. And somebody in the chat had mentioned Adele, the singer, turning into like a 12-foot reptilian or something after a show one night. And I'd heard that, and everybody laughs at that stuff. But is that possible? Could that really happen?
I mean, from my experience, I would say it's more like some people can actually see the true soul. And I think you're probably actually seeing the true essence of what's possessing this being. I believe that the individual is, probably an actual person, and it does have to do with bloodlines. They have to be a proper bloodline to be able to, have this happen to them. That have a reptilian possess their body, a reptilian soul go into their body and possess it. And I mean, I think that's probably the biggest reason why it happens, in my opinion. Is it's not really necessarily. I mean, you could say it's a hologram, but we're going into like kind of like a mystical area, like I said, with the whole fourth density thing. So with ETs, it's kind of like what we would see is like something spiritual or mystic. To them, it's almost just like a technology, but it's an organic technology. It's not like a technology that we really use. It's a different kind of technology, and they really intermingle like the whole spiritual realm with the technological realm. They're kind of one and the same to them, to like the higher density beings as well as reptiles. So yeah, I would say that the number one thing for me, from what I saw in personal experience, is this is an individual. The body itself is kind of like an empty vessel, and there's something else like possessing it. There's something inside of it, and that being is probably underground in a cave. The actual physical form of this being is an underground cavern, and yeah, they're just projecting their consciousness into another body, and there has to be a proper bloodline. It has to be, in this reptilian bloodline, I guess you would say. But yeah, and if people see it, it's either they let down their guard, maybe something happened and they kind of showed themselves and didn't necessarily mean to show themselves, or that individual has an ability to actually see what's truly going on. People say the Matrix, I guess in a sense there is kind of one, in the sense that we're being kept artificially down in third density. We should be fifth density beings by now. We should be like above the reptiles in consciousness. But it's almost like this artificial kind of, I don't know, like this trap that we're kind of in right now in third density. And yeah, so if people can kind of come out of that. And I was also told that the density chambers that they use, which brings you up from third to fifth density, so you can work with fifth density beings, ETs, because they're much too smart, they're much too fast, they're on a different level of plane of existence. I was told that that was reptilian technology because the reptiles don't have the ability to go up one density naturally. He said that we have the ability to go up one density naturally. People who meditate and focus, they learn how to astral project and stuff like that. So we have the ability to go up one density, because when somebody astral projects or has an out of body experience, they're going into like the next higher level of density. While reptiles don't have that ability. They don't have the ability to go from fourth to fifth. So they actually had to create like a technology to be able to go up one density to compete with like the other fifth density beings.
Wow. Okay, I had a thought. If there is a bloodline connection to this, a lot of the people that we see and hear about being reptilians potentially are in the limelight. It's people that are famous, people that are the heads of state, actors, singers, pop stars. Those are the ones that are kind of keeping us with almost like mind controlled, right? And they're the ones that are kind of like I don't want to say controllers, if that's the right word, but kind of keeping everybody in a lull, or like kind of asleep in a way, and like hypnotized. Gosh, I'm going to put this show on Rumble too, y'all, in case something happens, okay? Because I know we're talking about some pretty deep stuff today, Daryl and I here. But I think this is important. This is an important conversation for us to have, because we're trying to figure out, well, why are we not more advanced? What is keeping us from being advanced? Is it, our culture? Is it the people in charge keeping us asleep? We're trying desperately to wake people up. A lot of us are, just by sharing our stories, like you, Daryl. Okay, and because there is an effort to keep us dumbed down. Shall I say? Is that a terrible thing to say? We are kind of being kept dumbed down a bit.
And I would say life expectancy too, because I was told by Robert, the executive officer, that the off-world Germans live over 800 years on their own world off of Earth. And I was told that certain things like, the poison on our food, our air, our water, the chemtrails, all this stuff, even the moon itself. I was told that the moon, I remember talking to a woman on the moon, and I said, aren't you worried about, I was with her, and I said, aren't you worried about getting pregnant in this horrible kind of like slave area? And she said, no, I can regulate my ovulation. She said, I'm in the moon, so I can regulate it. And it's only when you're out of the moon. She said, she told me that it's the moon itself that causes women to ovulate and have their periods, but it also accelerates our aging process too. The moon is artificial. It causes us to age too quickly. Food, air, water, and that in itself. ETs, a lot of ETs, they don't even really are considered fully educated to go on a ship, to actually work on a starship until around 80 years old. They go at 40 years old, they go into like an apprenticeship. They study for, a long time, then they go into an apprenticeship, and then they're not really considered completely capable to do it till about 80. And then that's when we die. So it's almost like we don't even really make it past like university. We don't even really make it past our youth as far as our actual spiritual maturity, I would say. So yeah, I would say our lifespan has a lot to do, because pretty much everything out there lives a long time, at least hundreds of years, if not thousands.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating. Okay, so you had mentioned the moon, which has historically been kind of a sensitive subject here, because I did a remote viewing of the moon And I know that we're encouraged not to do that as remote viewers, especially not to talk about it publicly. And I had remote viewed the Apollo 11 moon landing, and I got a proverbial knock at my door. Okay, well, since I have you here today, let's go there a little bit with the moon. Is that okay? Let's talk about it. You ended up on the moon at some point as a result of having an encounter with that reptilian being. What was it like on the moon? Because you were actually used as almost like slave labor, am I right?
Yeah, it was. Well, I would say what the moon is for itself is probably why they tell you not to do that. Like remote view to the moon is the moon itself is kind of like a way to observe us. It's like an observatory almost for Earth, and it's a way to watch us, and it's also kind of like a stepping off point. You go into there's looking glass technology in all underground bases, and it's a portal that takes you into the moon, and then you take off from a ship from the moon. So it's almost like a stepping off point. But I mean, as far as when I was in the moon for punishment, I was supposed to be there for 20 years, maybe even 40. They can have contracts go up to 40 years. You don't get any kind of adverse effects from the age regression process until 40 years. If they do it more than 40 years, it could cause psychological damage. But yeah, I was supposed to be there for 20 to 40 years and not have my memory wiped, come back to Earth, be age regressed, be sent back in time. And the XO, Robert, told me that most people commit suicide after that. They treat you so hard. But it was like they put you in groups, working groups, and if somebody in the group didn't work hard enough, it would be mass punishment. They put these collars around your neck, and they were shock collars, and they would shock everybody. And they were mining, and I remember they just had like large drill bits like you would see for like mining oil and things like that. We were putting kind of pipes together. It was almost like a roughneck kind of thing that they were doing in the moon. And yeah, it was mining, and they had brothels there because your only motivation to work was sex, and that was really it. You didn't get paid, you got fed, and then they had like this brothel area. And these women that they were there, they were forced too to come there. They either volunteered for a program, they didn't have a high enough IQ score, so they wound up here. I heard even to work in the mines of the moon, you have to have at least 110 IQ because there's something about the being pushed up into a higher density to where it's like your mind can't take it because everything is so much different. Color spectrum is more. You can see more. You can kind of catch yourself going in and out through timelines, like going into the future and then coming back to where you are in the present. It's like a whole different kind of, I don't know, just a way of being. And yeah, like from what I saw, it was mining. There were brothels there. There were living quarters. They had rooms. There was like these lifts that would go up, these square lifts, and it looked like you're inside of a condo, almost like this living area I was in. And there were 4 lifts on the ground, and they would just go up, and they would take you directly to your room. And there was no railings or anything like that on these lifts, and there was no railings on the sidewalk next to the rooms. And it went up about 5, 6 floors. And there was actually like an invisible field on every floor to where you could just walk across it. You would just be kind of almost like walking on air, it looked like. And the kids would play on it, and they weren't supposed to. They had children and everything like that. And they weren't supposed to play on these invisible fields, but they did. But yeah, that's what I remember of the moon. It was mining. It's an observatory, and it's also kind of like a stepping off point for the secret space program. So that's why you don't see ships taking off from Earth, because you go take a portal into the moon first, and then you take off from the dark side of the moon. And the moon itself is artificial. It's really not supposed to be there. That's why I always find it bizarre that nobody thinks like it just so happens to revolve at the same exact right way with the Earth itself, to where you never see the other side of the moon. I always just found that strange that nobody really found that strange. I don't know, like the way it works, such like clockwork, where the moon itself never seems to rotate. It just rotates perfectly around the Earth, so you only see one side the entire time.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we're told just doesn't really make sense, and it doesn't add up, and we don't question enough. We don't question it, and you know, and when I start questioning it, I get that knock at my door. You know, but that's one thing. I love how you said that. How there's actually a portal to the moon, right? Did you say that? Okay, because that might have been part of what I was going to discuss in that data. Okay, so that's something that I have not talked about. So I can back that up with my data. Okay, that if I don't think that we got there the way they say we did. Okay, it's not what we're told. That's all. So that's wonderful. Okay, that you were able to talk to us about that today. Now, as far as the people on the moon, and I say people, are there humanoids, humans, ETs? What kind of people are up there?
A lot of off-world Germans, and they dress like your typical kind of Gestapo. They're kind of like the goons, I guess you would say, for the reptiles. And then there's reptiles there too that are kind of directing them. It's almost like this knockoff of these off-world Germans that the military calls them. And they're almost like a vassal state for the Draconian Empire, I guess you would say. And yeah, they work directly for them. And I saw them. I saw reptiles. I don't remember a lot of elongated skulls, but I remember I don't know what their name is, but they look like they're like the Greys, but they're like a chalky white with black eyes. They're bald with big heads. I guess you'd call them Greys. Very tall, 7 feet tall, very long, slender. Most of the times they don't wear clothing, but I remember seeing things like that there. And yeah, it was mostly just reptiles and like Germans, off-world Germans that I would see on the moon.
We have a question from our friend Dennis Carroll in the chat. Are the majority of the moon bases underground or cloaked?
I would say underground. You really don't like. I don't ever remember really going to the surface of the moon itself. Everything was underground. We lived underground. The portal took you underground. So yeah, and I was told all these underground bases on Earth, they all have looking glass technology. So they all, like every one of them has looking glass technology. So they all have this ability to go through a portal that could take you to the moon or Mars or other places even.
That lines up with my data. Okay, that lines up with the data from the moon. Okay, not that I need another knock at my door, but if I hadn't already gotten another one, oh well, it is what it is. Yeah, that's really fascinating information, though, and great question from Dennis there. So basically, there's a whole wide range of beings on the moon right now, and because we hear about the dark side of the moon, and you'll see lights coming from the dark side of the moon, but actually there's a lot of underground activity going on at the moon. And you said the moon's artificial.
Yeah,
is this okay?
Yeah, it's not supposed to be there. I don't like there. It was natural in the sense that it could be mined. It had different kind of ore in it, but I think it was brought there artificially. It was brought to our world artificially. It was there to observe us, and as I said, to age us as well. A big part. And they've done studies on moonlight that I've read about where it's. If it's dark and you're in the moonlight, it's actually colder in the moonlight than it is in the shade of the moonlight. So, and it's warmer in the sun, but it's cooler in the shade. So it's almost like an opposite. Meat decomposes quicker in moonlight, like raw meat than it does.
Our meat suit.
Yeah, like our meat, like, but the actual beef, like if you sit it out in the moon compared to like a controlled area, like in your house, it'll actually decompose quicker out in the moonlight than it will like in your own home.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm staying out of the moon. That's why I guess vampires and all the creatures of the night love the moonlight. Okay, that's an interesting statement right there. I never knew that. I never knew that. Okay, Double D wants me to ask you about the solar eclipse coming up. Is there any significance to that with anything going on in the world right now?
I mean, I was told certain events by the XO, the executive officer, that we would use their, I guess you call it like magic against them kind of thing. So I don't know. I always kind of look at certain events, whether it's the Ides of March, whether it's an eclipse, whether it's, all these different kind of holidays that you notice that it's popular for Satanists and things like that. That they're the positive forces or whatever you want to call it are actually using their own kind of like negative influence against them. They're manipulating their own kind of beliefs and things like that to use them against them. So I'm always kind of like looking out for different events like that. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. Rosie's Green Leaf Odyssey has a question. what kind of government or management is used on the moon? Who's in control up there?
I mean, I would say, well, I believe it's going to be free if it's not freed already. But I remember Robert telling me it's going to be free. I remember I gave a speech or something that I was once on the moon. I was once like you, and I recruited some people, some workers, some of the miners into the Solar Warden, to work for Solar Warden instead of in the mines. But I mean, as far as like what I saw when I was there, it seemed like mostly reptilians. And like I said, the off-world Germans were kind of like their lieutenants. They just kind of did whatever they told them to do, and the off-world Germans, were kind of like their muscle. So it was just like you would see reptilians every now and again, but you would see mostly just human beings. You would see just mostly people like us. And I remember like when you worked in the mines, they gave you kind of like a gray jumper, like a gray jumpsuit, overalls, coveralls kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, you would mostly see people in Gestapo uniforms and that was like the leadership on the moon.
Okay, well, I had a thought. Is there a
Yeah.
connection to like Antarctica? Because we hear about New Swabia, right, out of Antarctica, and it's like a German settlement there with underground bases and a lot of German connections there. So is there some sort of connection? Because we hear also about all the heads of state wanting to go down to Antarctica. What's going on? Is there a connection?
I mean, I would say so. Yes, I would. Robert, I keep on saying to him, but he was telling me all these things. He did bring up how they were channeling ETs. The Germans in World War II in the 30s and things like that. And a big part of that was, going to Antarctica, as far as what I heard, and getting certain ET tech information to reverse engineer and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, I believe that completely, but not just Antarctica. I mean, a bunch of them ran to South America too. Like Chile and Brazil and things like that. So it's kind of weird and suspicious that people don't if you go to Antarctica and there's off-world Germans there, but there's plenty of Germans in South America that, and the Horn and everything of South America is so close to Antarctica, so it makes sense that they would go there.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Well, there's all sorts of connections going on here. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I'm trying to. We've got a few more minutes. We got about 10 more minutes today, or a little bit more than that. So, someone in the chat had brought up good reptilians as well, like benevolent reptilians. And I had a guest on. I had Nigel on the show a while back, and he was talking. He says that he channels benevolent reptilians who are actually watching over the earth and trying to help humanity. Now, is that something that you're familiar with as well?
I mean, there were like some, but not there's that many in my experience. Now, on the other hand, I would say that, like I said, these royal caste reptilians they did feed off something like Loosh, you would say, where it was like pain and suffering and things like that. But these other reptilians, the larger ones, they seem to be almost kind of like a force of nature, in the sense that they really didn't care about pain or suffering, but they would still eat people. But it was almost like an alligator eating someone. But I really wouldn't call them evil or something like that. I would say that they saw us maybe as a food source, and that's just kind of like the way it was, the law of nature. Kind of like when a lion attacks or an animal attacks, it's not really evil, it's just following its own nature. But I mean, did I have a lot of experience with positive reptiles? I mean, I don't believe so, but I remember just the ones that were stuck in pretty much the same boat as me, where they had to follow orders from this royal caste of reptiles. They were civil in the sense that they weren't like animals, and they weren't barbaric or anything like that. You worked around them, and it wasn't they didn't seem like mindless animals. They seemed very intelligent, and I wouldn't really call them compassionate, but they were just kind of neutral.
Okay. I saw a comment from my friend that this David Pardue just left a comment here, but David is a part of my research team, and he has a lot of very interesting videos. He's from North Carolina, okay, but he has a lot of interesting videos. There's one video at least that looks like a reptilian in that video, and I have had friends on the show who are also field researchers who have had up close and personal encounters with what they believe to be reptilians in the woods. Okay, in the woods, and that includes Jeremiah Fountain. You guys may remember that show that I did with him. And we have one called the Lizardman of Scapewar Swamp here in the South. You and I both live in the South, Daryl, but right up a little north, I guess it's like east of where I live, is South Carolina, and they have it's actually, I remote viewed that, and I do believe it was a reptilian that came up from underground. Okay, so they're popping up around here occasionally, and they're seen in the woods where I do my research. Should I be worried? Should I be scared? What do you think?
Well, I mean, like I said, there is an epidemic of people being kidnapped in like national parks and things like that. And I live next to a national preserve about an hour away called Green Swamp, Florida.
Yeah.
And that is this. I've heard stories of just different kinds of reptilians and things like that hanging around Green Swamp.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, down in the swamps of Florida, I always say, bless your heart, man. All my friends that are field researchers down in Florida, they get to contend with anacondas and boa constrictors and alligators and stuff that I'm just not comfortable with in the swamps. But when we're out there looking for skunk apes and Bigfoot, lizard man, I'm not super excited about personally, but there's a whole lot of things that will take you, and we have video evidence of a potential portal that opened up. And I mean, do you think that the reptilians are, I guess we kind of talked about this earlier, but are they utilizing Earth's natural portals, do you think?
Yes, and there is natural occurring portals that happen all over the earth. They happen all over the universe. They're just kind of like a hiccup in time. They're just a natural thing. And the reason why people really can't see them most of the time, when people do see them, it's almost like a fluke. I was told that one of the reasons you had to be put up into a higher density is because third density beings can't see and they can't use portals, even the naturally occurring ones. And it's probably maybe because it's on video, or maybe it's just that person just happened to be at like a higher level of consciousness at the time. Because I said we can naturally go up to fourth density, so maybe they were just at a natural level of consciousness at the time. But I was told to even use that portal in the underground base, Looking Glass portal, to go to the moon, you had to be, at least fourth density. That's why they put you in the fifth density, because we can't use portals. We can't see portals. We can't use them. I was told that the Babylonian Arch that they took to the courtyard of the Vatican, that was an active portal. But because we're third density, we can't see it and we can't use it. And that the reason why we fight over the Middle East so much is because there's more portals there than anywhere else in the world. And that's why it's always so contested. It has nothing to do with oil or anything else.
Yeah, those Stargates. I brought our friend Arkeem Ra on the show a couple of times. He's given me some blind coordinates for remote viewing targets, which turned out to be really interesting, like jump gates and portals from, I think it was California, right? California to the moon, or to Venus and to Mars. That was it, Venus and Mars. And that data, those are some great shows. If you guys miss those shows, y'all go back and watch. It's Stargates and portals and stuff. Okay. But yeah, I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I mean, my team we have, like I said, video evidence where we had two of our teammates walk into what we consider to be a portal, and their heat signatures completely disappeared. And then when they walked out, they came back. And I'm just glad they came back. Okay. But however, my friend Bob actually passed away last weekend, and we do believe that both of them have passed away since that incident. And there was a high dose of radiation that got both of them, we do believe, or at least a dose of radiation. They both got pretty sick. We're not saying that that's what caused their health problems, but we've always been suspicious of that. And so
that's true. When you use portals a lot, when even whether it's natural or artificial, it does affect your DNA. But it's something that can be fixed with a med bed. But like after using them so many times, it can affect your DNA. That's true. It's almost like you cease to exist and then you exist somewhere else. So it's almost like, I guess you're kind of like clinically dead, and then like your consciousness just goes back into this new body that's being created. It's almost how it is. It's almost like you cease to exist here, but then now you exist somewhere else, and that's kind of like how they work.
They teleported, right? It's kind of
Yeah,
like
exactly.
teleportation.
hmm
Man, that's so fascinating. I mean, if people just knew like everything that's going on around us in this world, and I guess that's why we're here today. We're talking about it. And yeah, it's just a wild, crazy world that we live in. And it's hard to have these conversations with the regular everyday, let's say normies, right? With people who haven't experienced it. But when we share our stories and what you're saying lines up with the research that I've done and the experiences that I've had and my team have had, we're all just kind of putting the pieces together and like, wow, kind of, I don't want to say exposing it all, but I think we deserve to know what's going
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah. I think we're ready, and I think people are ready, and I think they've been, kind of, they call it what, soft disclosure, where they
Yeah.
put things like on TV and in stories and in books, and I think a lot of that is just to kind of plant it into our subconscious, so we do accept it a lot more easier than we would have normally. I think a lot of the things we're watching on television, things like that nowadays, it is a form of soft disclosure to put it into our subconscious to let us know it's real.
Yes. Okay. Okay, we've got a few more minutes, and I want everybody. Okay, I'm giving away. Let's do the giveaway real quick, and I'm gonna have everybody put a number in the chat, and whoever gets the closest to the number wins this. We are giving away, Daryl and I, a little. It's just a mossy oak hunter cap. Okay, it's like a beanie. Daryl picked a number before the show. I'm going to mail this to whoever gets closest to the number today. Pick a number 1 through 100. Okay, 1 through 100, and whoever gets the number or closest wins the hat. So you guys put numbers in the chat right now, and we're gonna see by the end of the show today. I'm gonna have Daryl tell everybody what that number was. Okay, and whoever wins gets it. Okay, all right. So we have a question in the chat. Okay, it's 1 through 100, y'all. So put your numbers in, and you can vote twice if you need to. Um, People are talking about med beds. Okay, and that is something interesting. Could you explain what a med bed is, and if you've had experience with that?
Yes, it's something. It has to do with a frequency, but it pretty much reads your DNA. Your DNA is like the blueprint of your body, and just like you need blueprints for a house, that's kind of like what the DNA is. And so, if you're missing a limb and you have somebody that has phantom limb, that's actually because your DNA and your consciousness, your soul or whatever, it knows that that's supposed to be there. The DNA and the soul and the consciousness, they're related. They're very closely related. The physical and spiritual is kind of one and the same. So when people have things like phantom limb and stuff like that, it's because of that. It's because your body recognizes, the DNA recognizes that limb's supposed to be there, but it's not. And all really a med bed does is it kind of just regrows. It reads the blueprint of the DNA and regrows this limb, or it can regrow, eyes, teeth, things like that. It can tone you up in the sense, it takes the wrinkles out of your skin. It won't take away the gray. Only like age regression does that. But it can tone up your muscles. It can make you, if you're wearing glasses, it'll make your vision better. And it's something you can go into every day if you wish, and there's no adverse effects. There's other healing technology like healing tanks, to where that's like if you're clinically dead, and they have ways of like holding your consciousness, heart, like what do they call that? They were able to they use a word for it, for your consciousness, to be able to hold your consciousness, and salvage. They were able to salvage your consciousness. And yeah, then they'll put you in a healing tank, and they actually put like a cable in the back of your neck that keeps the electrical impulses going in your brain, so your consciousness, your soul, will stay in your head even if you're clinically dead, and that'll regrow your body. But that's for something much more like getting blown in half. While a med bed, if you're missing a limb, or even if there's this, you're missing your appendix, you're missing a kidney, it'll grow back any of those things for you. And it's not necessarily like age regression, but it will help you live longer. So, but it's not like, it doesn't really age regress you.
Oh my gosh, this is a funny comment. Outside Tesseract. What if your brain is missing? Hey, there's probably a few people that are missing their brains. Okay. I need to grow some more brain. Okay. But yeah, that's fantastic. I had no idea that you could regenerate your organs with the medbed, that kind of technology. I mean, the technology that is being kept from us, from the general population, and it's almost like somebody wants us dead. You
And
know what I
yeah,
mean?
for a majority of ETs, they actually see our world as kind of like an oddity because for them, things like medbeds are so common that it's natural for them now. And for us to not have that, it's almost like if you were to talk like to a child, like an ET child, they wouldn't even really be able to comprehend that so easily because it's just something a part of their life, their everyday life. And for a world to not have this technology, and we're pretty much the only ones left. We're like in last place, as far as like being able to, our consciousness being raised and our technology going up. And that's why we're being helped by other ETs. But it's one of those things we have to do it on our own primarily. We can't be completely helped. But yeah, for us to not have this technology is almost just like something difficult to believe for a lot of ETs that don't really have experience with us because it's something called like a universal ET tech where all ETs have this technology like medbeds.
Wow. Well, hopefully things will change and we'll have better access to technology like that. And I can only hope.
We have
I'm
it in the
striving for
underground
that higher
bases.
timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, we have it in the underground bases. They're just keeping it from
Well, dang. Okay. Well, dang it. Well, maybe they'll bring it out soon. Now that we're kind of exposing that we've got the technology, and maybe we'll have it. Okay. I always see good things from here on out. I know we talk about dark subject matter and stuff, and things that can be scary, but there's also a good side to this too. It's shining the light on it, talking about our experiences, and then just knowing it's there, but not living in fear, right? Because we're not feeding into that loosh. Okay, y'all. We're not going to feed into that. And yeah, so I mean, I have a list of things to look out for. If you suspect someone is a reptilian, Daryl, do you want to hear it? I've got a list. Let's go over the list real quick. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so I was actually reading that people with green eyes could be reptilians. Now that's bad news for me because I've got green eyes. What the heck? So I don't think I'm a reptilian, y'all. Okay, I really don't. But it says look at their eyes, and sometimes you'll see videos of like people's eyes changing into slits and stuff. So have you ever seen anybody that has done that before?
Oh yeah, I've seen it before. Yeah.
Okay. Well, also they say that people with like odd textured skin, this is just what I read online, y'all. Okay, Daryl, I was just seeing if this is true or not. But people that seem to have no soul, okay, and with no empathy. Okay, people with like no empathy have like a reptilian type of characteristics, they say. And they apparently, okay, so this is funny. They attempt to appear like humans, but they just aren't quite right. Okay, they just don't seem quite like a human a little bit because they just don't have, like I said, the empathy gene. Basically, there's no empathy, and they say if your intuition alerts you of someone who is not totally a human, they could be a reptilian. Okay, so and I've met people like that, Daryl. I really have. So I don't know. This has been a fantastic show, Daryl. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on here today and talking with me about reptilians today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Of course. Okay. Well, I hope you'll come back and join me again. And so I did have 2 people that got the number today. And if there's somebody else, and here's what we're going to do. Tell everybody what the number was, Daryl.
Well, I said 89, but I think you thought I said 99.
Oh, did you say? I thought you said 99. Okay, yeah, so you said 89. Okay, well now I got to go back. Okay, anybody who said 89, so it's 89. I thought you said 99.
So if you had a tie, maybe there's no tie for 89.
No, let's go with 89 then, because I didn't know, so I repeated it to you. So if anybody got 89, okay, and I had 299, so let's look for 89. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and look again. So if anybody got 89. I'm going to go back and look after the show. I will hit you up. You hit me up at the cryptidhuntress@gmail.com. If you're on here and you had 89, I'm going to find you. Okay. So yeah, Whoever got 89 gets the mossy oak hat. This is worth $1 million.
That's
Coming
it.
and some Cryptid Huntress merch. So that's awesome. Okay. Well, awesome. Daryl, this has been amazing. And I think I learned a lot today. I really did. Can you tell the audience where to find you with your website and about any kind of conferences or events you got coming up?
Yes, my website is DarylDJames.com, DARYL, D is in Delta, James.com. I'm in the midst of working on a book. I'm about 40% done. I'm probably going to need a ghostwriter to help me out with it after it's written. And the conferences I'm going to something called a conference called Deceptions, March 22nd through the 24th in Lubbock, Texas. I believe the actual event is sold out, but you can still get a live video feed. And the next event I'm going to is Alien Event, April 11th through the 14th, LA Sonesta, LAX Hotel. So alienevent.com.
Very nice. And then are you going to be at the Full Disclosure Now conference in July as well?
Yes, that's at some time off, but yes, that's in St. Pete Beach. But yeah, in July I'll be at Disclosure Now or Full Disclosure. Yeah.
I said that because I'm going to be there too. So we're going to have a really good time. Yeah. I'm like, you can't forget that one. I'm going to be there. Yeah. So it's not till this summer, but you guys please come see us down in Tampa. It's Tampa, right? Or St. Pete. Down in St. Pete's Beach. Man, it's going to be fun. So y'all please go see Daryl out. Man, this is, like I said, this has been awesome. The audience was digging it today too. So I want to thank all my moderators, all of my channel members. If you guys would like to become a member of the channel, just hit that join button on the main page of, I think you probably need to go to like a laptop or your PC to do that. I'm not sure, but you guys become a member and I have exclusive content there. Also, don't forget, I do have a sale today in my shop, War Woman Goods on Etsy. I'm giving away free merch to everybody who buys anything out of my shop today. You get the Cryptid Huntress merch today. Okay. So, yeah, y'all come see me tomorrow night. I'm going to be, we're going to have a show with Barry Littleton, and I have remote viewed the alien autopsies of the Roswell alien crash. Okay. Whoa. That's all I have to say is whoa, y'all. It's really odd and really fun. I say fun. Autopsies are fun. I'm just kidding. It's terrible, but it's really interesting. So you guys please come back and join me. And Daryl, thanks again. You're the best. We'll see y'all soon. Everybody have a great day. Come see me at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference in Dillard, Georgia this weekend. All right. Well, I'm signing out. Daryl, have a wonderful day. Okay. And we'll talk again soon. Bye, you guys. Y'all keep your head on a swivel and lock your doors. Bye.